One of the things that I often hear from clients when I am working with them that gets in the way of them building a community, that gets in the way of their healing, is this feeling that they don't want to be a burden. Sometimes we're talking about reaching out, making a phone call when you're struggling, and that will come up like, well, I don't want to be a burden. Or they're talking about a situation in which they got triggered. And again, it would have been helpful for them had they reached out to somebody. And again, their reasoning is, I don't want to be a burden. And the reality is, and I tell clients this, you might feel like you're a burden. Sometimes if we flip the script and I ask them, if somebody from your 12-step group reached out to you when they were triggered or reached out to you when they were in a difficult emotional space, would you feel like they were being a burden? And almost 100% the answer is no, of course not. I would be happy to help them out. But for some reason, for them to do the same thing, it feels like they're being a burden. So in our discussion, I will usually say, you're going to feel like you're a burden. But the reality is, in relationships, we are agreeing to be there for each other. Whether that's a friendship, whether that's a romantic relationship, whether that's our partner, part of what we're signing up for is to be there in those moments and to not feel burdened by the fact that our partner or our friend needs us in that moment. One of my favorite quotes that Dr. Patrick Carnes shares in the book Mending a Shattered Heart talks about this very thing. He says, quote, "One of the tests for an intimate relationship is answering the question, can I be most myself in your presence? Can I be creative, funny, vulnerable, productive, strong, weak, flamboyant, shy, or even smart? Can I couple any of those words with sex and romance? Can I be tough, forgiving, generous, attractive, spiritual, intuitive, graceful, clumsy, lazy, self-indulgent, and disciplined? Do I feel equal, successful, attractive, encouraged, trusted, and believed? Can I be fully as competent as I can be and not have my partner disappear? Do I feel challenged? Can I be accountable and hold my partner accountable? Is it okay to make a mistake? Does our time together really seem to matter?" He continues, "There are many ways to discern if one can be most oneself. The more fundamental issue implicit in the question is, are you willing to risk yourself with this person? Intimacy really comes down to what you bring to the equation, and happiness stems from what we bring to that table called intimacy. There are two decisions on the table. The first is the choice to be in relationship. A committed relationship is a way of life which requires much of the partners, and it has little to do with who you are with. This commitment has more to do with how much you've grown up, learned skills, developed integrity, understood your own limits, and healed your wounds. From a therapist perspective, people's happiness is often of their own unmaking. To be an adult, especially with children, work responsibilities, and the nightmare of addiction, it is a difficult context to discover you still have growing up to do. For some, the best choice is to take the time until you know you are really ready to be in a relationship. The second choice on the table is to whom you are willing to commit. Two things make the choice of who you successfully choose to commit to. When intimacy boils down to its essence, physical characteristics become tangential. Ultimately, these two issues make or break successful intimacy. These relationship qualities truly matter. The first issue is, does your partner freely admit their mistakes? And the second is, do you feel safe enough to readily admit yours? Nothing lasts without those basic qualities of integrity. Everything else, sex, romance, success, goes through that filter. No long-term intimacy can survive without this essential sense of our own limits. Psychiatrist Carl Jung long ago pointed out that the most important part of any relationship is the willingness to share the darkest parts of ourselves. It is critical to good parenting. Children need to understand that their parents struggle in life. Otherwise, unrealistic expectations create shame in children. Similarly, no primary relationship survives without the full disclosure of self. Again, there is great irony that shame is reduced by telling the most shameful things about ourselves. When partners keep secrets from one another, they invariably introduce shame into the intimacy of the relationship. So the second key issue is, can you share the darkest part of yourself? And can you hear about the dark side of your partner? Being vulnerable doesn't require that the partner fix anything but rather witness the strength and courage it takes to be an adult human being. In the movie Shall We Dance, Susan Sarandon stars as a suburban wife who hires a private detective to find out about her husband's secret life. She learns that her husband has secretly been taking dance lessons. While he hasn't been unfaithful, he did have a secret life. The private detective clearly wants to use this discovery to become involved with her. So he asks her why she stays with this man. And she responds with one of the best statements of what it means to be in a relationship with another. She says, because we need a witness to our lives. There are a billion people on the planet. What does any one life really mean? But in a marriage, you are promising to care about everything. The good things, the bad things, the terrible things, the mundane things, all of it, all the time. Every day you're saying, your life will not go unnoticed because I will notice it. Your life will not go unwitnessed because I will be your witness. He ends by saying, all relationships are challenges. The ultimate test of human life is making a successful long-term relationship. It is part of life's refining process that calls us into being better people. Family therapist Carl Whitaker once observed that all relationships are a struggle. It is simply a matter of finding the best struggle you can. Many times we find it is the one we are already in, end quote. I think when we look at intimacy in relationships through this lens of being a witness, of caring about all of the things and witnessing how hard it can be as an adult human being. It's also where intimacy deepens and expands, and that's not a burden.